recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, we are here to discuss the greatest football movies of the 80s and 90s. And joining me in today's discussion are two huge, monstrous sports fans that were handpicked just specifically for this episode. Both of these gentlemen are basically overqualified for this topic, I'm telling you. Each of these guys brings a wealth of football knowledge and movie viewing to the table like no other. So before we get called for a delay of game, let's get this party started and help me welcome my two captains for the day, Mr. Rich Falls and Ethan McDonald. All right. Gentlemen, how are you? You ready for this?
I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's do it, man. It looks like it seems like I just saw you guys. Yeah. So it's good to see you.
Deja vu all over again.
That's Josh's favorite club in the 1990s was Deja Vu.
Oh, huge fan. Still is. Is that still around?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, rest in peace. Okay. Nice way to start off the program. Okay. So we are here today to discuss the greatest football movies of the 80s and 90s. So I thought I'd bring you guys in because it doesn't get much better than you guys. Well, wait.
It does get better than us, but we'll take it.
Just to be honest here, the only reason I have you guys on is because I couldn't get Andrew Velasco. So I have to sell for you guys. I'm just kidding. I kid. Okay. All right. So we're going to discuss the top football movies from the 80s and 90s. And we're going to do it just like we do all of these countdowns. We're going to discuss each of the movies just a little bit. We're not going to go crazy and wild on some of these. And then at the very end, we're going to pick out our runner-up and then our top three until we get to the number one favorite movie of each of our choices here. So we're just going to start this off here. The first movie in discussion was released on December 7th, 1980. And this is a made-for-TV movie. And it stars Robert Urich, Art Carney as Art Rooney, and Bonnie Bedelia. The movie is fighting back the Rocky Bleier story. So this movie here, it's actually on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch it, I know that you guys refuse. No, I'm just joking. I don't expect everybody to watch all these movies, especially made for TV movie that came out, in 1980. But
much like when you're in junior high and you know the story, if you have to do a speech on an autobiography, you don't have to read the book, so it's okay.
Well, that's but a lot of these are true stories that they kind of change the plot, right? So, all right, this movie is a famous true story of running back Rocky Bleier, and he is drafted into the army. He's sent to Vietnam, and he's actually injured during combat. So he comes back, he's all injured, and he's like, "Hey, coach, can I get on the team?" And he's like, "Dude, you can't even walk." And basically that's kind of like where the story goes. And basically it's his fight, his struggle with rehabilitation, him meeting his wife, and his relationship with the Steelers owner, Art Rooney, who was actually the one that gave him the chance to stay on the team, fight back, and actually play. And it kind of ends with him winning the Super Bowl with the Steelers. And so any thoughts on this movie or just the actual story itself?
I mean, the Rocky Bleier story is just a fantastic American story.
It's awesome.
A guy who goes to war, gets injured, fights his way back. And actually, one of the greatest dynasties in football history, was a part of multiple Super Bowl winners, and even had a classic 1,000-yard rushing season.
Absolutely.
And this is after he was diagnosed of, they said you may never walk again. So
Oh, yeah.
I mean, nothing you can say about the story itself. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. Ethan?
Yeah, it's a great story. Once again, a salute to service and those that served our country, especially the Vietnam conflict being an interesting one. Like I said, I'm still surprised that this isn't something that you were forced to watch by Lee Matlock, Josh, just because your dad could have dusted off that on the VHS out in the garage. He's smoking away. He's making, you're going to watch this, Josh, and you're going to learn something. He's going to stick it in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What's going on?
Have you ever heard of a man named Rocky Bleier?
I'm like,
Tina had to come in and say something. What would Tina have said if she came in and caught you in the garage watching this?
Yeah, you guys ready? It's dinner time.
And he's like, yeah, just a moment. We're almost done with the it's almost Super Bowl time for Rocky over here.
Okay, well, God, like, can you shut the door? The smoke is coming in. God, damn kids. Swear to God.
Lee and Tina, two of my favorite human beings. Yeah, so my thoughts on this is amazing story. I can't imagine this was first class just because it was a made-for-TV movie. Like you said, it's such a great story. It'd be awesome to see if they did it again. Like, get some new acting in there, and some of the, someone that writes a good script. It'd be interesting to see what you can make.
Yeah, they really should, because it is such a crazy story. I mean, this guy, he's a 4-time Super Bowl champion with the Steelers, Bronze Star, Purple Heart recipient. Like Rich mentioned, rushed for over 1,000 yards in 1976. And that's back when, they ran the ball, so he was getting pounded by those defensive guys. He's actually born in Appleton, Wisconsin, where my mom and her family are all from, and half my relatives. So that's kind of cool. There's no actual reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for this one. Nothing to really note, but there's lots of interviews with Rocky Bleier because, it's such a crazy, awesome story. And yeah, so I give this, because I'm the only one that actually, I think, saw this movie. But I give it a 6 out of 10 just because of the story and how crazy it is. Again, not a high production movie or anything like that, but I give it a 6 out of 10. All right. So moving right along, the next movie was released on October 21st, 1983. This one stars Tom Cruise, Craig T. Nelson, Chris Penn, and Leah Thompson. That movie is All the Right Moves. So, Ethan, what do you think about this movie here? What's the plot? What's going on in this movie here?
Well, you've got, once again, Tom Cruise, like you said, and this is really his first big break, his first big acting role that kind of kicks off his career. And yet you can even see the talent in him in this movie, even though he's a young man at the time. So he is a a high school football player in Pennsylvania. Obviously a very blue collar town. We have to imagine like a suburb of Pittsburgh. It sounds like everybody works in the steel mill. The expectation is that's where everyone's going. But Tom Cruise has a different dream. He wants to use football to escape the city, go to college, and get a better life. And some of the people in the town resent him for it, as if he thinks he's better than them. In fact, he pisses off his coach, played by the original coach, Craig T. Nelson, the amazing show from the 80s. Okay. And if only he had assistant coach Dauber with him, this movie might have been better. But needless to say, he pisses off the coach because he's got this attitude. He makes it very clear. And he feels like the coach maybe isn't doing his job to get him the looks he wants for college or whatever. And so the coach kind of blacklists him, gets him to the point where like nobody's going to touch him. And so he's fighting to kind of rekindle, keep this dream alive. And that's kind of the synopsis of the plot. I don't want to give away spoilers from a movie from 1980. Who knows? Somebody might have to dust this off and want to see it. So yeah, that's really the struggle you're looking at. But what are your thoughts on this thing here, Rich?
Yeah, actually, when I watched it originally, I remember liking it. And I thought it'd be one of those movies where I go back and doesn't really hold up over time, but actually it kind of did. And I think that's to the skill of the actors and to an extent the writing, but mostly the actors just kind of jump off the screen at you. And overall, a solid movie when it comes to 80s football cheesy movies. So.
Yeah, there's plenty of those.
Tom Cruise, there's a lot that could be said about Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise is a movie star, right? And you can really see it really kind of start here. But yeah, so some interesting facts on this one. Tom Cruise actually suffered a minor concussion during the filming of this.
Explain Scientology, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. And Leah Thompson actually almost did not take the role of this film because there were 2 nude scenes that were presented to her. And Tom Cruise, he actually came to her rescue and persuaded the producers to drop one of the scenes, and then he actually did the other remaining scene with her on screen. So that's kind of a cool thing to do. And
Josh, explain your rule. Explain your rule then, because if there was nudity, explain your rule about nudity in the movie, please.
Okay, well, so we're going to go through some of these movies, and my rule for a movie, if we are rating it on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you laughing at, Rich? If we're grading this on a scale of 1 to 10, and there's nudity in it, I'm a little kid watching this. Well, I'll even just say now. But if there's nudity in the movie, it's at least getting a 4 out of 10. So
all right, good. Just want to make sure we establish that as a ground rule so people know where we're going with it.
Right.
There you go.
Continue
So,
your thoughts there.
yes. So this movie, for me, I would say I give it a 5 out of 10. Maybe a 6, but I'm going to say a 5 out of 10.
Got the nudity and only one more point, maybe a 2.
I mean, yeah. Sometimes, this movie to me can be a little slow at times, but if you watch some of those movies from the 70s and early 80s, they're just filmed differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I just recently watched that Elvis movie. Holy moly, that thing's just going like all over the place. You're like, holy moly, I can't even.
But they're also not 2.5 hours long, so
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, which I don't know if that's good or bad. I watched a episode of Stranger Things the other day, and I was like, this one episode is as long as a movie back in the day. And I'm like, what is this? So yeah, you can build character development a lot better these days with these series that go on and on. But
I think this movie is interesting too because one of the things we talked about before we started this thing on camera was that these are not like the baseball movies that are like, there's some amazing dramatic movies. There's some amazing acting. It's very easy to recreate baseball scenes that are believable. That is not easy to do with football. No. And because of the high skill of what the athletes have to do, and it's just not easy to fake it. There are plenty of these movies where the football scenes are atrocious and it is embarrassing. And this movie is about middle road on that. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't like so noticeably bad, but it wasn't great.
Right.
And I think I give it like you, Josh, probably right around a 5 or a 6. Like, it's a movie I remember seeing and I thought it was good, but I don't, I haven't gone out of my way to rewatch it a bunch of times, like some of the other movies that we'll talk about on this list.
Yeah. And Rich, what did you give it?
I'll give it a 6.
Give it a 6. Okay. So this movie on Rotten Tomatoes actually received a 63% from the top critics and a 39% from the audience. So kind of a always like a weird difference there with the with how the audience responds to a movie versus the critics. But this was kind of
it's kind of the other way usually, though, where like the critics rate it low and the audience likes it better. That's
especially for football movies, Yeah. So maybe there's if you went back and watched this, you could probably tell maybe it's high in the dialogue and all those like gold critics love like the dialogue heavy movies. But yeah, my rule is it can't get any lower than a 4 out of 10. So yeah. So the next movie on the list, this one's released on January 31st, 1986, just 5 days after the Bears won Super Bowl 20.
Yeah.
Rich Falls right there. Rich Falls. Oh, that Bears. Okay. This one's starring Robin Williams and Kurt Russell.
And
the movie.
Mike Ditka. No,
Yeah, the movie is The Best of Times. So, the plot of this movie, I'll just go over here real quick here. So, Jack Dundee, played by Robin Williams, is a banker obsessed with what he considers the most shameful moment in his entire life, which is the time that he dropped the perfectly thrown ball in the final seconds of the 1972 high school football game between Taft and their arch rivals, Bakersfield, which ended in a scoreless tie. That shouldn't be allowed, by the way. Especially in like high school, it's ridiculous. So 13 years later, Jack coerces Reno Hightower, is played by Kurt Russell. He was the quarterback, and he's now helping him to relive the game. And Reno is actually the greatest quarterback in the history of South Kern County, and the only quarterback to ever wear white shoes.
It's pretty legendary. Pretty legendary.
Yeah, it's like Namath, man. So with Reno and Jack together, they convinced supporters in both towns to recreate the original game to see if they can redeem themselves. Yeah. Can you imagine if they did this? That was just like how many times people would want to redo this, like in their towns. This is so ridiculous. But anyway, Ethan, what do you think about the movie The Best of Times?
I think it's a highly believable plot line. I think it happens all the time. This is 80s cheese at its finest, right? So first off, you can't go wrong with Kurt Russell and Robin Williams. I mean, two of my all-time favorites in movies. I mean, so with that, you start with that, and then the fact that you've got football mixed in, you've got, I think at one point Robin Williams even has like, he steals like an opposing mascot's uniform to try to like piss people off enough to play this. I mean, it's ridiculous, but for me, this is a movie that just, I have a lot of fond memories of because I watched this with my dad, and it's a movie that we both really liked and laughed at. The fact that Kurt Russell was a used car salesman, just Kurt Russell's so 70s and the 80s. I love that guy. It's a fun movie. Like I said, you got the great football scene too, even though it's horrible football, where Robin Williams is like a devil spin move off the line of scrimmage to avoid the jam by Dr. Death, the defensive back.
Aren't they doing that in like all these like in slow motion?
It's just like, I know we're going to talk about the movie Lucas later, but it's almost like Lucas is all grown up and he's because he's got his glasses. I mean, it's just the whole thing is just adorable and ridiculous, but it's 80s cheese at its finest. And so for that reason, I think it made it a very it's a movie worth watching. It's got its merits. I even rewatching it, like I still laugh at it. I enjoy it. It's not something like where I'm like, oh, this is a waste of time.
Definitely 80s cheese. Rich, what do you think, man?
I enjoyed the movie just because of the actors that are in it. Obviously, Robin Williams, Kurt Russell, fantastic. The comedy is in there. I couldn't really stick with the plot because for one, it's hard to believe like a couple guys who look like they're in their mid 40s are 13 years removed.
People looked older back then.
They aged hard back there, man.
Right. But besides all that, I mean, what Ethan was saying, it's an enjoyable movie. The comedy is there. Overall, it didn't really hit me. Maybe it was because of the age I was. But
you were like 6? Or
pretty much,
5?
Yeah. But when I watched it, I was probably like 8 or 9. But so because of that, I'm gonna give it a 6 just because of Robin Williams and Kurt Russell.
Gotcha. You know what? I'm gonna give it a 7. Much like Ethan, this is a movie I watched with my dad and my brother, just laying on the couch, just watching this. Back in the day, we'd go to the movie store, and remember, like there was just, actually, this is probably one of those movies that was played on HBO that my dad recorded, and we just watched it over and over.
That sounds right.
So there was a lot of movies like that I watched with my dad and my brother. My mom's probably like,
I'm gonna go in the back room and read. You guys can do your guy stuff. Leave the toilet seat up over here, and I don't care. I'll go in the back. Anyway, so yeah, it was guy time in the living room. So here's some random facts from that movie.
Okay.
NFL corner and later head coach Herm Edwards is one of the extras used in the football scenes.
Yeah. You play to win the game. Boy, I love Herm Edwards.
Yep. Oh, you see some of the greatest clips there. And Robin Williams and Kurt Russell, they actually both played high school football before becoming actors. So they actually were able to perform their own stunts in this movie.
And the double spin move proved it. So
yeah.
Totally believable.
Yeah. So, but Robin Williams actually later said that hiring the director, Roger Spotswood, as their director may have been a mistake because he was Canadian. And sometimes there's like a disconnect with some of the rules, and
you thought there was only 3 downs and you could like kick it through the end zone and get a point.
Did they have a guy start running from the end zone before the play started?
Yeah. Probably
Yeah.
played for the Edmonton Eskimos before the. No.
Oh yeah, good stuff right there. Yeah, no. So I gave this movie between a 6 and a 7. Let's go with a 7. I'll give it a 7 out of 10, just because of that, that factor of just watching it like 100 million times. Even though I know it's not the greatest movie, but
Nostalgia.
Exactly. So this movie actually got a 31% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 42% with the audience.
Okay.
So not the highest scores, but again, a lot of these football movies, they're kind of like that, in that same kind of range of, not the highest scores for the football movies here. Not a lot of love. But okay, Siskel and Ebert. You guys think that they like this movie?
Probably hated it.
Let's see what they say.
Robin Williams and Kurt Russell are good actors, but they don't generate very much interest here, and I think the problem is that this should be a slice-of-life movie, but in this movie, Williams is allowed to go for laughs all over the map, and because he acts like he knows that the story is supposed to be funny, that keeps it from being funny.
That is exactly right. My one big problem with this movie, other than its simplistic script, which is, will they rewrite history or won't they? I love movies where you know the whole answer right when you walk in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But besides that, which is a big besides, is Robin Williams' performance. I think it's inept. And taking a step down, way down, 2 thumbs down for the best of times. A weak comedy with a miserable performance by Robin Williams.
All right, moving on. So this next movie, released on February 14th, 1986. The movie stars Goldie Hawn, James Quiche, Nipsey Russell, and a slew of other newcomers, including Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes. Let's not forget LL Cool J.
Oh, yeah, baby.
The movie is Wildcats. So Ethan, Wildcats. What? Give us a little.
Well, first, Josh, I need to take a second. I'm a little turned on by your Wildcat noise there, so I gotta just pull myself out. Yeah, whoa, do it in my loins, my plums. All right.
So I was going
all joking aside, this is obviously a very foundational movie for me. Not only cementing my love of football, but my love of Goldie Hawn,
Yes.
as well as the fact that it's the sport of kings, better than diamond rings. Football. Like this movie is just amazing. So the whole plot of this is that Goldie Hawn plays a young, I believe she was a track and field coach at a fancy school or whatever like that, and she wants to pursue her dream of becoming a high school coach, and she gets stuck in an inner city school, Central High, as you pointed out. Central Wildcat.
Central Wildcats, baby.
Central Wildcats. So gotta love that too. So right there, that gets at least another 2 points by my rule. She's going to face all sorts of prejudice. Not only is she the skinny little white girl that's going to an inner city school where there's a lot of African-American players and other ethnicities and stuff like that, but the fact she's a woman in a man's world with football, right. She faced all these challenges in the 80s too. Yeah, where it was about, different world entirely. But she whips the team into shape, and before you know it, they're competing against their rival Prescott High, which I want to say is where she came from in the first place, right? Where she was a track coach. I might be forgetting to play. It's been a few years since I've seen this, but needless to say, there's payback, baby. And this whole team of misfits and kids that were like getting in trouble for all sorts of things pull it off, including even a gigantic man who is kind of like the refrigerator Perry.
Exactly. Finch.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic movie. It's 80s cheese once again at its finest. The fact that a little blonde girl built like a cheerleader is running a football. I mean, there's so many great things to kind of laugh at, and if you don't take it too seriously, really enjoy.
Right. I like how when she was like running around the track, whoever goes longest distance, and she's like a track coach, so she knows nobody's going to beat her. So yeah, no. Rich, what do you think, buddy? What are your thoughts on Wildcats?
Overall, I love the movie. It reminds me of kind of like the scene itself, being a Chicago high school, being mixed and everything, and the story itself, as ridiculous as it may have sounded back in the day, maybe a little more realistic nowadays, but back in the day, the way that they put it all together and the actors that they had doing it, for me as a kid watching it, it connected. And I basically connected it to like Chicago and like you said, Chicago Bears of high school football almost.
Oh yeah.
So I enjoyed the movie and some of the great actors that were getting their start, like you said, Woody and Wesley. So
Absolutely. Yeah, you got it. In this movie is completely like the 85 Bears. So there's no way that Rich Falls isn't going to like this movie. I mean, basically it's about it has all the characters in it, has, Finch as kind of like their refrigerator Perry. Yep. It even has them doing a rap at the end, which is fantastic. I was like, what's funny is there was I was reading that they never released that song, which I love that. It's like, it's not a great song, but I loved it because I was a kid watching, and I was just getting into rap and stuff like that, as everybody else was with Run DMC and all that stuff. But they never released that song as a single. That wasn't on the soundtrack. So that was actually one of the first songs that I ripped from like BearShare or Napster or whatever that was back in the day. Because like all those songs that you couldn't find, now people were posting it and you could like just download it, So I was like, those are the songs that I wanted to get when those sites. So anyway, I thought this movie was awesome. Again, it's not a great movie if you're looking for a great movie, but it's entertaining as hell, right? Yeah. And this movie I watched a lot. This was up there probably with like Back to the Future, Karate Kid,
Iron Eagle.
Yes, Iron Eagle. Definitely Iron Eagle. And The Park Is Mine. What do you guys give this as a grade?
I'm gonna go ahead and start it off with a 7.5.
Oh, look at you with the half.
The half points, Rich. How technical. I'm gonna probably give this an 8. Like it's right there, 7.8, just because once again, and what is it really a movie that's an 8? No, but it is to me, right? The nostalgia of it, the fun of it, like as you pointed out too, Josh. Before, in a conversation we had before we were recording stuff, like I dare someone to hate Goldie Hawn. She's like Dolly Parton, like you said. It's just an impossible human being to hate, and she's just so adorable in this. And like, that alone. It's not nudity, but I'm going to give it 4 points just for that.
Wait, so you're giving it a 4, or are you giving it?
No, I'm giving it an 8. I'm giving it 4 for Goldie Hawn, and then another 4 because it was fun. That equals 8.
Now, if she was nude in this movie, would you give it like even
14?
Higher? No, yeah. So this movie,
10-year-old me.
No, I'm trying to think of now. Now you got me thinking. Now, is there anybody like at that level of likability? Maybe like a Tom Hanks, or I don't even know. I'm trying to think of like someone that's as likable as like someone like a
Keanu
Reeves. Yeah, there you go. That's a good solid one right there. Yeah.
I think like some of those comedian people, like Melissa McCarthy. It's hard to hate Melissa McCarthy. She's hilarious and ridiculous. And a Chicago native, right? It's a Chicago native.
Right.
Rich. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I like this movie a lot. I would still give it. Wait, Rich, you gave this a 7.5?
Yes. I'm
going to go with a 7.6.
Ooh. Just like The Price is Right. Just
right.
Yeah. So, this is a movie that's highly entertaining. Okay. On Rotten Tomatoes, this one got a 26% from the top critics. 26%.
I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
How dare you?
Yeah,
and
pack of assholes.
It actually got a 49% with the audience, which
that's
half the people.
Should be higher.
Yeah. What do you think, Siskel and Ebert? Beginning of this.
That's what I think.
I think one of them might have laughed.
All right, let's see what they say.
This movie doesn't do much with its basically cute idea. All of the characters are broad, shallow sitcom stereotypes. The plot's one more recycling of the sports comeback movie, the Rocky clone, that always ends with a big game, the big match, the big fight. Wildcats is a formula movie from beginning to end, and no effort is made to make the supporting characters into convincing or interesting people. What we're left with is basically just an old I Love Lucy situation, except it's 4 times as long and 1/4 as funny as Lucy.
That's probably too much praise. This was really awful.
2 thumbs down for Wildcats with Goldie Hawn and a shallow comedy about a female football coach.
All right, well, it's about right. About what we were thinking. All right. So moving on, the next movie on our list, released on March 28th, 1986. This movie stars Corey Haim, Cary Green, Charlie Sheen, and Courtney Thorne Smith. The movie is Lucas. So the plot of this movie, this is a classic story about a nerdy kid with glasses. Of course, every nerd back in the day has to have glasses, right? Big giant block glasses. He has a crush on the girl at school, and but she's, of course, this is just like any other like
friend zone.
But she's more into the jock, played by Charlie Sheen. Of course, who wouldn't have a crush on Charlie Sheen back in the day?
I still do.
Yeah. Ethan's like, I'm all about that tiger blood.
I like it, tiger blood, baby.
Yeah,
winning.
So, yeah, and Carrie Green, she was the girl from the Goonies, and she's the main girl in this movie. And yeah, I think we were talking about how this is the coming of age movie for the football movies, right? So, Rich, what do you think about the movie Lucas?
So I remember as a kid, I really enjoyed it. For whatever reason, it connected. Maybe because I was, a nerd. But
I know it got you. I know it got you. This
minus the glasses, but yeah, slow clap. Gotcha. But no, I really enjoyed it as a kid. When I rewatched it as an older person, didn't really hold up. So I would give it probably, if I'm gonna give it a grade, I'd probably give it a 5. But it's a classic coming of age story, and doesn't have a whole lot to do with football. So
right, it's like a high school movie, right? With football like in the background. This would be like kind of like a American Pie is a football movie. No, Ethan, how about you, Ben? What do you think of this movie?
This is a movie that my sisters latched onto, right? They watched it a lot, on nauseam. Like one of these ones that you talked about, Josh, where you take the VHS, you record it off of like HBO or Cinemax or whatever was babysitting us, and watched over and over again, along with like Heathers and Grease, and like movies that are just sadly killed for me because my sisters just watched it too much. And then just the fact that, like you said, like there's parts of this that are probably a little better written than some of these other movies, with some of the dialogue. I think someone, was thinking that earlier, and so that's probably true of it, but to me, it just wasn't my favorite. Other than the fact that I love Charlie Sheen in anything in the '80s, he's a badass. And like Carrie Green is great, but she's like, it's the same character from Goonies. It's almost like there's not, she's got one speed. There's just a piece of this.
She's almost exactly the same person.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
I think she even dresses in like similar clothing and everything. It was just crazy. So, like I said, though, if you're bored, look at the trailer for this on YouTube, because it is a shit show. I don't know what's going on. It's like, I don't know who edited this. It's just hilarious. Like, what am I watching? You would have thought it's an after-school special, not a real movie.
Right. Because they have that music.
It's just like, what are we watching?
What is this? What?
It's hilarious.
You're. It's like, wow, this is like a really serious, sappy, like depressing movie. Wow. This makes me want to run out to the theater and watch this. No. Yeah. The part that probably anybody even remembers from this movie is the slow clap. And, Corey Haim got the slow clap in this movie, and then eventually got the real clap later on in his career.
Well played, sir.
There's some random facts that I wrote down from this. Courtney Thorne-Smith, Jeremy Piven, and Winona Ryder all made their theatrical debuts in this movie. And
Jeremy Piven, that just blows me. Like, I want to see this and we'll figure out where he was or who he was, because that one went right by the goalie there. I didn't notice that one at all.
So this movie, what do you guys give this movie as a grade? Did you give this one a grade already? You give this a 5. Ethan gives us a 5. I'm gonna give this a 6. I'm gonna give this movie a solid 6.
Sappy little bitch.
Yeah, it's okay. If we're going just for the movies that were like the coming of age movies,
football movie.
It's not a great football movie, but yeah. So the reviews on this are pretty astonishing, actually. The top critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 73%.
Wow,
73, and a 70% with the audience. So this is a well-liked movie.
I'm sure most of those critics were probably nerds, and that's why they like it. So.
Like I said, upon first watch when I was about 8 or 9, I loved the movie. But
maybe we should have put Revenge of the Nerds on here. Okay, so Siskel and Ebert, what do you think they gave this? Good review? Bad review?
I'm sure one of them's going to love it, and he's going to get all sappy. And
all right, let's roll the tape.
My next choice was number 5 on my list of the year's 10 best films, and I think this one was the one that got away in 1986. The name of the movie was Lucas, and it was a wonderful film, the story of a teenage runt who's smarter than anybody else in school, but he just doesn't fit in. He gets a crush on a new girl in town, but then she falls for the football captain, and then, here's the twist, the football hero also likes this little kid.
Well, I think your praise is a little extreme here. I like the performance by Corey Haim. I like his character, and I like the woman. I thought the football captain was almost unnecessary.
But Gene, in high school, what always happens is that the one that you have a crush on, if you lose them to somebody else.
Right.
And then so you have that double whammy where it's not enough that you don't have the girl, somebody else has the girl.
Yeah.
And that kind of...
I'm familiar with the problem.
I'm sure you are. Yes, we've both been through that. And so that's why I think the football captain is so necessary. There has to be a third member of this triangle.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Ebert, that sappy little bitch. All right.
All right. So the next movie on our list, this one was released on March 25th, 1988. And it stars Michael Anthony Hall as the main character, Johnny Walker. Oh, that's pretty funny, Johnny Walker. And it also features Robert Downey Jr., Paul Gleason of The Breakfast Club, and Jennifer Tilly and Uma Thurman. And this also, let's not forget, it has Bears quarterback Jim McMahon and sportscasting legend Howard Cosell.
Howard Cosell.
The best part of the movie.
They make cameos in the movie. The movie is Johnny Be Good. All right. So, Ethan, what is this movie all about?
That's a great question. Let me know when you figure. This is where the 80s go bad, right? And there's a number of these movies where, like, you could tell not much thought was put into this. They were just looking for an excuse. This was a chance to show some tits and ass. There's scenes that are just like literally, I swear that's what like most of it is. The plot is simple. We're supposed to believe that Anthony Michael Hall is a football player. Whoa. He's supposed to be amazing. Yeah. He's obviously so good that every college in the world is throwing everything at him. Girls, drugs, cars, all this kind of stuff. He's going around in this recruiting whirlwind, yet he has this sweet girlfriend back at high school played by Uma Thurman. He's obviously getting all these other opportunities out there. And I do believe at one point she even drops the catchphrase, Johnny, be good. And it's like, oh my God, this steaming pile of shit was a movie that even when I watched it as a young kid, I remember watching it with my dad, and I was kind of like, I felt like it was like a Budweiser commercial where they open the beers and all the girls come out and made you think like, oh, it's McKenzie. Yeah, it was just like a rated R version of a Budweiser commercial. That's about the content of it. I mean, that's about as nutritional as it. I mean, this movie's garbage, but there was some nudity in it. So obviously, Josh, you have to give it 4, and
at least get a 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in the football and it's terrible. And so, I mean, it's just not the best offering from the 80s, especially as a football movie, but that's my take.
Yeah. Rich, how about you, buddy?
I hate it.
Well said, sir.
Okay.
I give it a 3.
No. Well, you have different standards than I do, apparently. Yeah, no, this movie, it's Ethan, you just covered it. I mean, like, look, when I say that the movie fell apart when they casted Anthony Michael Hall as the lead star football player, that's it.
So
I mean, when Charlie Sheen would have been a better movie.
When you have the plot and the script of Blue Chips and then cast that movie the way you did, I mean, you just screwed up. So
listen, he played a dorky nerd in basically every 80s movie before this. Right? Yes. I mean, isn't he? He's a nerd in Weird Science. He's a nerd in 16 Candles. He's a nerd in. He's kind of nerdy in Vacation. He's a nerd in what's the other movie? There's like every movie he's in. He's a nerd, right? And then all of a sudden he's like this. How you doing? My name's Johnny Walker. It's like, what? What is this? So I don't know. And then like you said, it's just like just TNA. Which, hey, look, It's at least going to get a 4 from Josh over here. But
Yeah. Well, it's like
from
the
everybody
studio had a
else, that's fine.
contract. The studio had a contract with the guy where they had to make so many movies, and this was the last one. They're like, just make something up.
Yeah, exactly. So this movie actually received. This is pretty good here. Listen to this. The top critics gave this movie a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes with 17 reviews. So 17 people hated this movie as they reviewed it. With the audience, it got a 30%, a solid 30. So
That's pretty bad.
They're almost following the Josh rule.
Yeah, right.
Not quite a 4.
So what did you guys rate this movie real quick again?
I said a 3.
3, and then Ethan, you got a 3?
Yep.
And I have to give it a 4.
You have to. You have rules. You're a man of standards, Josh. There's nothing wrong with that.
I cannot go against my own rules. So it gets a solid 4, not a 4.1, not anything above a 4. All right.
No fractions or decimals allowed.
Okay, let's move on because I don't think that Siskel and Eve even bothered to review that movie.
Imagine.
Okay, so moving on. Released on September 27th, 1991, this next film stars Scott Bakula, and that's pretty much it. But it also co-stars Larry Miller, Sinbad, Jason Bateman, Rob Schneider, and Kathy Ireland. The movie is Necessary Roughness. So, Rich, you want to take what this one is, or do you want to have someone else take this one?
I think Ethan might be a big fan of this one.
Fair enough. Yes. This is the legendary story, true story of Texas State University football. No, it's a make-believe university, obviously. I honestly think they took some of this so inspired by all the things that happened to SMU, Southern Methodist, with the Eric Dickerson, all the scandals, because basically this college had multiple violations at the NCAA. And so the NCAA basically takes away everything. They've got no scholarships left. So they're forced to recruit basically the bottom of the barrel to try to get a team together. And so they recruit a bunch of bizarre players like a 30-year-old washed-up quarterback that never got the chance, played by Scott Bakula, the great one from Quantum Leap.
I mean, it's a quantum leap, but come on.
I love that. Really oh, look at that guy. It's good.
You've got Jason Bateman is like this nerdy kid whose dad was alumni, so he has to be on it, but he's not very good either. You've got just this ragtag. It's like the Bad News Bears of college football.
Right.
But needless to say, the team struggles. It tries to get things going. And I think it's funny that in your notes you mentioned they don't really come together until supermodel Kathy Ireland, who I think was a soccer player, shows up to kick and really inspires, especially their center, Manu the Slender, a Samoan gentleman.
Wouldn't that inspire all of us?
Yeah, I would indeed. But this movie is obviously completely ridiculous. It's 80s cheese brought to 1991. And for so many reasons, maybe just because of the time it came out here. I'm a young man. I think we're maybe 9th or 8th grade, right around there, Josh, when this comes out. Yeah. It's a football movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's campy. It's ridiculous. It's lampooning. The football isn't great, but there's so many funny lines in it. everything from Rob Schneider, going, all the things he's talking about, the announcer. You've got the linebacker who's a martial artist who goes crazy and ninja kicks the hell out of everybody. You must show some respect. You've got everything from Kathy Ireland kicking the guy in the ball, welcome to footballs, and just drills him right in the nuts. And there's a bunch of ridiculous stuff. Like I said, some of the stuff that I even think about coaching wise, I believe it's I know you didn't say his name, the Robert Loggia, whatever, the actor. He's hilarious, the assistant coach, and he's like, "What are you trying to do? Block a sled or hump a butterfly?" Things I can't say as a coach anymore, but I think about them because it's hilarious to me. This movie was highly entertaining. Remember how we used to always pick on Sean Davis in high school, Josh, and call him Featherstone because he could not catch a football even though he was super fast, and
he was really fast.
Yeah. I think to guys of our particular age, Josh, and I know Rich was a little young for this one, this movie has probably a little more impact and resonance.
Yeah. And you said that I think you saw this in the theater, right?
With my mom. I did. I went on a little date with my mom and watched it. So once again, it holds some special place in my heart.
That always makes a difference, by the way. Rich, what about this movie to you? What do you think of this movie?
So I enjoyed the hell out of it. I mean, I was younger. I was probably 11 or 12 when I saw it. But Scott Bakula I loved from Quantum Leap. and just overall, it was a fun movie. It was what it was supposed to be. They weren't trying to be serious.
Yeah.
And I have a rule.
There you go, Rich. Don't forget your rule.
No, I absolutely have a rule. Anytime you can put Sinbad in a movie, you're gonna get a 6 minimum.
Wow.
So,
Damn,
so,
that's impressive.
So I'm gonna give it a 6.
Wow. Rich celebrates the entire Sinbad DVD collection. And it's a very highly coveted and collectible collection because they are out of print. Nobody even sees those or even knows about those movies anymore.
That is
So-
correct.
Did he make a movie where he's a genie or something like that? I remember that. Like, never mind.
Sure.
Sorry.
I believe you're right.
I just remember him always wearing like Zubaz on stage.
Yeah.
Like it's
Parents were terrible.
yes. So, Ethan, what did you give this movie as a grade?
I think I'm gonna have to give it. I'm gonna go like with a 7.5 to copy
Oh,
Rich.
okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's like I want to give it 8 just because of the nostalgic, but it's to be honest, it's not. We know it's not as good as that, but I love it, so I'm giving it a 7.5.
Rich, what about you, man?
I give it a 6.
You give it a 6? Okay. I remember I remember watching this movie and the football scenes are so horrendous. Like when
They are.
Kathy Ireland is kicking the ball, it is so bad. But the movie itself, it's okay. And of course, Scott Bakula, you can't hate him. You can't hate
Right.
Scott Bakula. He's just one of those guys.
Him, Goldie
Like-
Hawn, and Dolly Parton.
Yep.
Yes.
Tom Hanks. There you go. Yeah, you can't hate him. So for that, I'm going to give it a solid 7. I'm going to give it a 7. So
Oh boy.
now this movie, actually, do you guys know who some of the guys that came out of the some of the prison team guys that came out of the?
Oh yeah, there's some studs in that, man.
There's
I remember
there's-
Ben
there's-
Davidson. What are you
Yeah.
in for? Computer fraud.
Some of the
Dick
some of the
Butkus,
NFL stars. Yeah, Dick
Ed
Butkus,
Tutal Jones,
Earl
Randy
Campbell,
White.
Yeah, Jim Kelly, Tony
What do you-
Dorsett.
What do you
Dorsett.
mean the football was awful? I mean, come on.
I mean, the cameos were legit. I forgot about that prison scrimmage. That was awesome.
Yep. So this movie actually got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes with the top critics and a 47% with the audience. So almost a 50. Siskel and Ebert, what do you think they gave this one?
Like they loved Rob Schneider, so they probably both gave a thumbs up. Joking.
Getting cuppies. All right, let's see what they gave this movie, and we'll be right back.
And there's the stereotypical supporting cast of the guys on the team, the nerd, the rich kid, the fat guy. The mood of Necessary Roughness is genial enough, and Robert Loggia and Hector Elizondo are old pros who are very good as the coaches. But this picture is anything but must viewing.
Okay, it's not must viewing, you're right, but I had to see it, so it was must viewing for me,
right.
and it was much more painless than I expected. I knew
I would
just about
agree.
what was going to
I
happen.
agree on that.
I would have bet $1,000 they were going to win the last game in
Right.
the last second, but nevertheless, you're right, the character actors bring a real color and excitement
Yeah.
and dimension to these characters, and is more intelligent than the basic version of this formula.
Another split decision on Necessary Roughness, the football comedy, which I thought was all too familiar, but Roger enjoyed.
Okay, so the next movie on our list. This one came out on December 13th, 1991. This was directed by Tony Scott of Top Gun fame. And the film stars Bruce Willis, Damon Wayans, Chelsea Field,
Nope.
and some other people that I...
Halle Berry. Even though
Halle
she's a
Berry.
good dinger.
Halle Berry. The movie is The Last Boy Scout. So I'm just going to go over the kind of like the synopsis of this movie. So you have Joe Hollenbeck, played by Bruce Willis. He's a private investigator who his latest gig is protecting a stripper who's played by Halle Berry.
And
When
by
she
the way,
turns up-
no one likes Joe. He's a loser.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So when she turns up murdered, he grudgingly teams up with her ex-boyfriend, Jimmy Dix. You like that? Jimmy Dix.
Who doesn't love dicks?
Damon Wayans. And he's an ex-quarterback with a little bit of a gambling problem. So the two men go after killers and stumble onto a plot by a famous wealthy businessman to provide federal legislators into legalizing sports gambling.
But that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Who knew it was an expose? It was really like a documentary.
Crazy stuff going on here. Ethan, what are your thoughts on this movie?
Obviously, this was kind of like the epitome of the gritty 90s kind of movies that were coming out at the time, because it's even the way it's shot. It's that very Tony Scott, almost like Top Gun-ish style, with like the sunsets and the dark colors, like everything's like a gold hue or something. But
that's what I remember. Mostly dark stuff going on. Lots of fire and crazy action scenes and stuff like that.
Totally testosterone-filled movie, obviously, throughout. Even though, and it got your testosterone going, because I'm telling you, Halle Berry in the beginning, holy smokes! I mean, she's always gorgeous. But needless to say, this movie it has the iconic sequence right at the beginning where the running back's running for the touchdown, because obviously they got to cover the spread or whatever. He's scared he's not going to make it. He pulls out a revolver and just starts blasting people on the field. I mean, it was like it's a way to get your attention. So I mean, this movie's over the top. It was action packed. It certainly was entertaining. But once again, to say it's a football movie is kind of a stretch. There's football as a backdrop, and it's related to it because obviously Damon Wayans' character is a quarterback, but it's not really a football movie.
Agreed, Rich.
I love the movie. So this is prime time blockbuster. Hang out on the weekend with my dad. Go to Blockbuster, rent a couple movies. Last Boy Scout probably rented it about 12
Jack Daniels, lots of weed and marijuana.
Only movie he rented more was Debbie Does Dallas.
but so entertaining as hell. Bruce Willis in his prime. Obviously Damon Wayans, funny, and it just hit basically every nerve that I had when I was growing up. It was somewhat about football, but with the investigate and the action that was part of it. He dances a jig at the end of the movie. It just worked for me. Overall, it's way over the top, but I'm
way over the top.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it thoroughly, as you can tell.
Yeah, it's an entertaining movie. It's in the same light as the diehards, the Terminator kind of deal, where it's just at that age. How can you not like a movie like that, right?
And there was a lot of cussing in it, so
yeah. I believe that the F word. I'm not going to say it here because this is a children's show, even though I just said pot and Jack Daniels and the F word was used 102 times in this film,
or the first 20 minutes of an Eddie Murphy movie.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. And Joel Silver said the making of this film, though, was one of the worst experiences of his entire life. Tony Scott also spoke about how miserable the production was, largely because Silver and Bruce Willis took over the production and altered parts of Shane Black's script and made him shoot scenes that he hated under threat of him being fired and having to forfeit his salary.
Wow.
Not to end there. Assistant director on the film added that there were production problems caused due to the overabundance of alpha males on the project. He said that Bruce Willis was at the height of his stardom. Joel and Tony, they were also at the height of their stardom. And there were a lot of people who had a lot of opinions on what to do. And just when you thought it ended there, the composer, he even hated the film when he first saw it.
Wow.
And the only reason that he even provided the score to the movie was because of his personal friendships with Bruce Willis and producer Joel Silver. So sounds like the behind the scenes were kind of a nightmare of that
hostile work environment. It sounds like.
Jeez, yeah. So did you guys
sounds like working at UPS, Josh?
Okay, so what do you guys think of? What do you guys give a grade for that movie overall?
I probably give it an 8.5.
Damn. Okay.
I'll give it a 6.
6. I'll give it a solid 6 because it's an entertaining movie. Not really, as far as football movies, it's probably not going to be like on the top of the list or anything like that for me. But let's see what they got on Rotten Tomatoes here. So on Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave this a 46%, and the audience 68%.
By football movie standards, that's pretty damn good.
That's pretty damn good right there. So Siskel and Ebert, What do you think, old Siskel and Ebert gave this movie, guys? Think this is a good
don't
one?
think you're gonna love it.
I don't know how they. Yeah, I don't know if they loved all the action movies back in the day. So
Let's see what they give this for a review here.
This is a well-made action thriller, and it does indeed deliver the goods. But it also reaches some new lows in the unremitting, repetitive vileness of its language. I give The Last Boy Scout thumbs up for technique and basic action skill. It does work, but as a sign of the decay of public standards, it's pretty bad news.
My test is always, what would I say to a good friend? And my answer was that it's what I've been saying since I saw the picture of friends. Some cute lines, some good stunts, but nothing special, not essential.
What, thumbs up or not?
Down. A split vote on The Last Boy Scout. Roger feels it works on an action level, but deplores its bad taste. I found its cynicism depressing. Thumbs down from me.
Okay, so the next movie on the list here, released on September 11th, 1992. This movie stars Brendan Fraser, Matt Damon, Chris O'Donnell, and Ben Affleck. The movie is School Ties. Ethan, what's going on with this movie here?
This movie is one that I know our boy Rich has not seen. And so I'm going to tell Rich, you've got to make sure you see this. But obviously it's a movie that even stood out to my wife, Sarah, who loved it. Probably just because of all those male hunks you just listed off there, Josh. I mean, obviously this was a star-studded cast, albeit all of them were no names at the time. I mean, Brendan Fraser is probably on the up and coming because let's be honest, that guy owned the 90s. Holy crap, man. Look, like we said, we know that the established peak, though, is Encino Man, and don't you dare argue that. Now, with that being said, this movie is about a 1950s Catholic prep school that is tired of losing to its rival. And so they bring in this absolute stud quarterback played by Brendan Fraser, who has a little secret. He's not Catholic. He's Jewish. But he agrees because he wants to be prepped to get ready for college. He's going to hide this part of his identity because he's afraid in the 1950s of anti-Semitism and the hatred of the Jewish people. And he basically wins over campus. Like, he's the big man on campus. He's winning football games, winning hearts, kicking butt. The school loves him. And then his little secret gets out, and it's exactly what he feared. It's backlash. It's anti-Semitism turned to 11, because this one goes to 11. And a joke. Yeah, sorry, a little Spinal Tap reference. You got to give some Easter eggs out there. With that, this whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. And Brendan Fraser is basically fighting some of his buddies that loved him one minute, immediately turn on him and hate. And I think it brings up a really valid point of just, this is the kind of movie that I think young people need to see. And Josh, you have a thought on that? Share your thought.
Yeah. So I've said this before about the movie American History X, which is basically the reverse of this movie, where if you haven't seen American History X, is basically about a white supremacist kid who gets mixed up in the wrong crowd, hates black people, and boy, the movie starts out crazy where he's like curb stomping a kid, and it's horrendous. It's awful. It's like one of the worst things you'll ever see ever. But he ends up going to prison and is forced to work with the black kid, and he finds out, this guy's actually pretty cool. This movie that we're talking about here with School Ties, it's exactly the opposite of that. So basically, Brendan Fraser is the Jewish kid, and he's at that school, and he's like this great athlete, super personable guy. Everyone loves him, and then they find out his secret, which is crazy even thinking about this now. But there's a lot of anti-Semitism still out there. But now they find out that he's a Jewish person, and they turn on that sucker, man. Matt Damon, boy, he goes from like a 10 on the loving him spectrum to he's vicious towards him. So it's one of those movies that should be shown in schools, in my opinion.
I have to check it out. I don't know how I missed it back in the day. So
yeah, no, it's a legit good movie. But this movie was actually based on the personal experiences of writer and television producer Dick Wolf, who is
wild,
the man responsible for all the Law and Order franchises that are out there. And this movie, Matt Damon recalls the director trying to, lift the young actors' spirits up, but he was like basically telling them, you guys are going to be the next Brat Pack, kind of like the old 80s Brat Pack with all those, kids. Man. And it was Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Brendan Fraser, Chris O'Donnell. They all became huge stars. So I don't know. Yeah, they actually became big stars here. But yeah, Rich, you need to see this movie. I wouldn't say it's must see. But as far as like the movies on this list, it's one of those movies that really should be seen.
I'm just for the movies I have watched, I'm surprised this one missed me. So
yeah. And Ethan, I think we were talking about this before, how, you know, growing up where we did, I talk about this with other people. I didn't even know anything about Jewish people and the hatred that people had for Jewish people. Cause like, I mean, do you remember growing up, like anybody like talking about Jews ever besides like a, you know, comedian or something like that? I never heard of that. Maybe until, you know, history class when we were in like high school or something like that, when we would talk about like people shoveling Jews into ovens and shit like that. But like, even that was kind of like, why do they hate Jewish people? Like,
I don't know that it was really well explained. And like you said, being on the West Coast, we don't maybe have the same population. And I don't recall Auburn. Yeah. Auburn didn't have a synagogue, did it? I mean, if it did, I don't know where the hell it was, where I knew a lot of the other churches.
No idea.
So I have to imagine the number of them was smaller. So we're probably just a little removed and detached from that. And once again, probably why it's all the more important to make sure that we educate young people in schools and stuff like that. And as a history teacher, you know, in high school, try to do our best for that very reason, so people are aware.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reviews for this movie were pretty good. On Rotten Tomatoes, the top critics gave this one a 60%, and the audience gave this one a 69%.
Nice.
69, dude.
69. So I think that Siskel and Eva probably enjoyed this movie.
They love movies with a message. So
right. So let's see what they say about this.
I think this is a good movie.
I thought it was good too, and I think you put your finger on it. In addition to the anti-Semitic material, which is well done, and I had one personal thing I want to tell you about. This is set in a prep school, and the anti-Semitic stuff is directed at this kid.
Yeah.
I have had the same experience as this kid. Mine was a swastika, and he has it on a flag in his room. I had one on a piece of toast in jelly handed to me at my prep school. And I thought, all right, this film, that makes the film tougher to please me, because I know what it's all about.
Yeah.
It pleased me. And again, I'm going to come back to some of the writing. It's smartly written. The ending, I think, is a little cornball. 2 thumbs up on School Ties, the anti-Semitism in a prep school movie. Roger and I like the drama, and especially the lead performance by Brendan Fraser.
All right, so let's move on. So the next movie on our list, this one was released on September 24th, 1993. Wait, this is right up our alley, Ethan. Right up our alley.
Baby.
Right in our
Senior
prime.
year, baby.
Yep. This one stars the late James Caan.
Rest in peace.
Yep.
Sky Points with the big James Caan.
Good old James Caan. Halle Berry.
Ow!
Omar Epps. Craig Sheffer. Joey Lauren Adams, and Christy Swanson.
Ow!
The movie is The Program. So, Ethan, what is this movie all about here?
Well, if we listen to Rich Falls, it's a documentary about the absolute terrible acts of Florida State University.
100%.
What it is a taking all the horrible things that have happened at any college program and rolling it all into one movie. But
Florida State.
Yeah, and probably true. Bobby Bowden totally seemed like the devil. With that, joking. Florida State fans, don't attack Josh in this podcast.
I'm not.
The program is about a college football program that clearly has a lot of scandals going on, but at the same time, you're following multiple characters. You got the quarterback, Kane, who is up for maybe a Heisman because he's had a good year before. You've got the dyslexic middle linebacker, something Mack. I think it was Kelvin Mack or something like that. He had learned how to read what was on his shoe because the other guy taught him. You have Vladimir, who's this kid who hasn't had an opportunity to really play, but he's going to take shortcuts and going to start taking roids, and he's going to get a starting place at the table, starting defense.
Seat at the
car
table.
window and a seat at the table, starting defense. I mean, this movie is obviously iconic to kids that were from our era, Josh, that were football players that loved it. There's so many scenes and lines, and the music was great. I mean, it's a movie that was obviously controversial as well, because there's the whole scene with the people sitting down the center of the freeway reading the newspaper. I think it's the quarterback trying to show you that he's got ice water running through his veins. And of course, copycat idiots tried this. And once again, natural selection. It's real, people. Not everyone deserves to pass their gammy to the next generation. And if you lay on a freeway, you idiots, or you eat Tide Pods, maybe some of you deserve to die. All right, so that's a little rough. But this movie's impactful for anyone that loves football and was around in the 90s. Clearly, everybody saw this movie, and more than likely, more than once.
Did Coach Jones like this movie?
Coach Jones did not like this movie. Our legendary football coach that beloved, like I would talk about this movie's great, coach. He's like, oh, great, Ethan, just what we need, a movie that makes the football look like we're a bunch of degenerates and criminals, and that's all that it is. Like, because he had a point, right? Like, not every college program has all of the issues, or maybe they did. I don't know. I mean, but yeah, he didn't like that it kind of shaded us in a bad light.
Yeah, we had some of the smartest people at the school on our football team back in the day. We also had some of the biggest assholes.
TJ Prince.
Yeah. Yanisek.
Yeah.
This movie is way over the top. Definitely about, those Florida schools, like Rich said. Mainly probably about Florida State, but let's not leave Miami out of the mix.
I mean, if you just look at the colors, the uniform,
he has a point.
I mean, the helmet, it's all Florida State.
It was called Eastern State or something, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Eastern State University.
Yes. So it was ESU instead of FSU. So
yeah, very sly.
One letter off. So, Rich, what were you were a fan? You were not a fan? What did you think of this movie, buddy?
I actually loved the movie besides the documentary part of it. But one of the unique things to this movie, as a football movie, the football was actually very well shot.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
And besides that, you know how most stereotypes are portrayed in movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this movie, they show different sides of the different characters.
Right.
The freshman running back who's supposed to be the stud, trying to take it over from the smart guy. The freshman running back isn't that smart, needs some help. But they show different aspects of their character. The quarterback.
There's always like a guy that gets hurt, and it's right. Is like true in like real life.
And it's always the most likable guy.
Yeah, right. Because he has to be. What's he gonna do? He's not gonna piss anybody off. He's just gonna sit there and he's like, "Well, go team." I guess
it's the NFL prospect who fights through his dyslexia, and then all of a sudden he gets hurt in the biggest game. But beside just showing the different sides of like the different characters, even the coach, not just the like dominant side, but the side of caring for his daughter, blah, blah, blah. I could go on and on about this movie, which is why I enjoy the hell out of it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's kind of what I think.
The football players look like football players.
Yes.
Let's start there. They a lot of them act like football players, a little over the top at times. The movie reviews on this movie, they were drastically different. We all know how this is going to go. The top critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave this a 43%, and the audience gave it an 80%.
Right.
That is a huge score.
That's the biggest gap. That's wild.
Yeah, so this movie, what do you guys give it as a grade?
I'm going to go ahead and give it my first 9.
Damn. Wow. He's like, because I love Florida State so much. Wait
a minute now.
Documentary.
Well, I'm going to say, like, originally I could tell like Coach Jones affected me, but when I really think about it and just like how impactful, I'm going to give it an 8. Like it was, because like you said, the football, and there's not many movies that get the football part of it right, and this one is probably one of the best.
Yeah.
And so even Omar Epps making it believable, like where he's a little scat back and he's spinning out like he's just like his skill set. There's parts of that were even pretty good. Like it was believable.
Yeah, he looked like Brent Kipling in his prime playing
football.
Baby. Yeah, little Brent. All right. I'm gonna give this a solid 7.5. I'm kind of liking Rich's half points here.
You're liking the half points, yeah. Rich, you train setter.
Okay. Let's do a little Siskel and Ebert. You think they're gonna like this?
I bet they loved it.
It's gonna be a huge hit with Siskel and Ebert. So let's see what they got.
James Caan doesn't look very good in the program, which really doesn't try very hard to be a good movie. We get a little bit of the quarterback and his drinking problem, a little bit of a cartoonish lineman on steroids, and a little bit of the black love story. It's all amateurish. the program is a waste of time.
I'm sorry, Gene. I'm giving this at least a marginal thumbs up.
Wow.
And I'll tell you why. There were two things that I enjoyed about the movie. One thing was the fact that they really do go into details about some of the things that these people do in order to get on the field every Saturday, especially the lineman on steroids. His story really wasn't cartoonish at all. It was tragic, and especially toward the end of the film and even the last shot of him, it's very thought-provoking. And the other reason I liked it was that I found it interesting that they took the formula of a sports movie, which is to say, will the team win the big game at the end of the movie, and did it in counterpoint with all of these horrendous human problems that are also kind of sub-dramas to that game. I found that an interesting approach.
I thought those little sub-dramas were superficial, and it does have the big game ending. I thought the football action, these days, there's so much video out, and people are so aware of what the real stuff looks like. I think you got to be extra smart. I saw another football movie recently, this week as a matter of fact, we'll review it later, in which the action was far more credible than this. I think it falls down at every single level. A split vote for the program. I thought it was a trivial college football movie that didn't dig deeply into any of its characters. Roger enjoyed it. He thought a couple of the small stories were worth watching.
Okay.
Okay.
Next up on the list, released on October 15th, 1993. This next movie stars Sean Astin, Jon Favreau, Ned Beatty, and Charles S. Dutton. The movie is Rudy.
Rudy.
So, Rich, why don't you take Rudy? Why don't you give us a little plot action on Rudy here?
Well, I don't know much about the movie, but so obviously I'm a Notre Dame fan. Rudy's a classic. Story basically about a kid coming up. His dream is to play football at Notre Dame. Growing up in a blue-collar steel mill town type of place. His dad works there. All his friends work. Basically, everyone who grows up in his town works there.
Yeah.
But he wants to go to college. He wants to play football at Notre Dame. But a couple problems. He has to overcome, I believe it's dyslexia. And has to overcome just not having the grades. And also just not having the ability to be a Notre Dame football player. But he works with a tutor who also becomes his friend, kind of works his way up into school, especially after the motivation of having one of his friends die in the steel mill, I believe. And then basically makes it to Notre Dame as a student, walks on to the football team, and I believe most people know the story where he ends up getting in on a play and being able to live his dream. I love the movie.
Also known as the Josh Matlock story.
Yeah, the Josh Matlock story, baby. Yep. That's me. All right, okay. Ethan, so what are your thoughts on Rudy?
Unpopular opinion here, and Rich is probably going to call me a hater. But I don't.
Not probably.
Okay, so come here. I don't love Rudy. It's not that I hate Rudy. It's an okay. It's a good movie, right? It's a cool story, true story. But I don't like Notre Dame, and Sean Astin drives me batshit crazy. So you have those two things together, and this isn't going to be a movie that I give an 8, and I probably give it a fractional point here. I'm going to give it probably like in a 6.5. Cat, get out of here. So I got a cat over here. So, yeah, so 6 foot, like maybe a 7. I'll be kind of 7 because it is a great movie and stuff. But it's like I even found out that some of the things they portray in the movie are far from the reality. I mean, and it's supposed to be a true story. And I know Hollywood's always going to kind of sensationalize things. It's part of it. You got to have bad guys, but it's just parts of that just didn't sit well with me. It just that's
how do they word this? Do they say inspired by a true story, or do they say
that should? But they didn't, I don't think, but they should have probably.
Well, yeah, they changed the main part where, like, didn't they say he was in the military or something like that? Or I don't know. I can't remember the real story, and some of the story with the coach who did not like how he was portrayed in the movie, right?
Yeah, but
like
it's
the bad
Dan.
guy.
But he was a bad guy. He's Dan Devine, and he came from Green Bay, so.
The colors run deep, Rich. Those colors run deep, baby. I got you.
Rich is like, there's nobody that is more of like a. Wait, hey, Rich, where
He
does your dad
deserves
live?
to
Right?
burn in hell.
Does your burn in hell? Burn in hell. Rich, where does your dad live right now?
He lives in Cudahy, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Did you just own your dad?
No, he's still a Bears fan.
Well,
Okay.
there you go. There you go.
Rich just got real serious real fast. Okay, no. But yeah, no, the movie, it's one of those movies, man, where like, I don't know how you can not like this movie. I get what Ethan's saying though with Sean Astin.
Goonies. That's all I see is Goonies, man.
But
But
Ethan,
the movie is well done.
It is.
no, well, what I'm going to say is, isn't he kind of perfect for that role though? I mean, you look at him, you're like, look, he's not Vladimir. He's a little kid that's,
Where's Corey Haim when I need him?
Yeah, right. He's like he's a little unathletic. I mean, he's not
No,
non-athletic, but you know what I mean?
Like I said, that's probably has more to do with my dislike of Notre Dame. And
Yeah. So that's what makes the story. He's the perfect underdog for this movie, and that's why the movie works. Now the movie is done well too. Like it's actually it's one of the better sports movies that's out there. Not just football movies. It's like a classic sports movie in itself. So
that's fair. Do the reviews back that up too, Josh? Does the Rotten Tomatoes give it high ratings?
First, Rich, what did you give this as a score?
I can't go lower than a 9.
9 out of 10. Ethan gives it a 7? Did you say or
7?
7. I give it an 8. So we're boom, boom, boom right there. This movie actually got a 78%.
Wow.
With top critics on Rotten Tomatoes and a 90% with the audience. It's just one of those movies. It's like one of the, how can you leave the movie and you're like, fuck, that was a good movie. You're like, you're inspired. You know what I mean? Like he's carrying off the field and, they're putting their jerseys down like, we're with Rudy, fuck you, go, whatever. So anyway.
Yeah. It's exactly word for word how it went down.
It is. And that's actually what Siskel and Ebert said too. So let's go to what they said. They're probably, what do you think? They're probably gonna like this movie, right?
They like it.
You can't like this movie. So let's see what they said.
Well, it is a terrific film, and it starts out. I think they have a line. This is based on a true story, and that always puts me on edge, know, because I'll decide whether it's good or not, whether it's true or not. But it does work, and I think there are two good reasons. One, I think Sean Astin is really wonderful in this role. He's playing a good person, but he doesn't make him sweet and cloying. He's just earnest there, and it's a quiet performance. He's confident that the camera will photograph him trying to do good deeds, and that his character will come out that way. And I think it's terrific. I really enjoyed it.
This movie was directed by the same man who made Hoosiers, which is another movie that we loved. It was about an underdog Indiana basketball team. Now we have an underdog on a top dog Indiana football team.
2 thumbs up for Rudy, the surprisingly enjoyable tale of a college football player with a lot of guts. You know where this film is going, but it still works getting you there. A marvelous performance by Sean Astin in the title role.
Okay. Moving on, this next movie was released on October 14th, 1994. The film stars Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill.
How did this not get an Oscar with that cast?
I don't know either. The movie is Little Giants. So you have the nerdy coach, Danny, who's played by Rick Moranis. And he's always felt a little inferior to his brother, Kevin, played by Ed O'Neill, or Al Bundy.
Damn right.
He's a former college football star, and Danny runs a gas station while Kevin coaches the local youth football team. Now, when Kevin's team rejects Danny's daughter just because she's a girl, well, Becky convinces her dad to start a rival team. And to prove himself against his brother, Danny begins coaching his team of nerds, geeks, dorks, and losers for a playoff game to decide which team will be the one team that stays.
So I'm going to guess that I'm probably the biggest fan of this movie.
Whoa. How dare you?
I'm guessing because I was a little younger than the older dudes when this came out.
Call this old, Josh.
So
saying that.
We are old.
So when this originally came out, obviously I loved it. It kind of right off the script of Bad News Bears or Sandlot, kind of mixes both of those together and puts it in football. Great.
Don't forget the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, Mighty Ducks as well.
Same
Absolutely.
movie.
Yeah, same movie. But Icebox, great nickname.
That's true.
The annexation of Puerto Rico was the classic play that they designed. So, I mean, this movie was entertaining. It's fun for kids. It's built for kids. I give it a solid 7. So
not bad.
That's what I'm thinking.
Ethan, what are your thoughts on this movie?
Well, Josh, obviously by October of 1994, like we're graduated. So this is a movie that was obviously geared towards kids. And so it's something I eventually checked out. I think I saw it like on, HBO or maybe something like that. And it was entertaining. Like there's parts of it, like the cameos in it too. There's tons of like pro cameos. Like I know in the notes you even put something like John Madden, Emmett Smith, Bruce Smith, Tim Brown, Steve Ettman. That's hilarious because that just shows you 1994 when he was still the cat's meow, before everything else. But yeah, it's just like there were some fun parts to it. It was really cute. Kind of felt like a Disney style movie. But it's not something I ever like sought out and watched again and again like some of these other films, simply because I think of the target audience, which is like 8-year-olds like Rich. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, look,
and it adds nostalgia for me as well.
Go.
So I've
Totally
actually watched it more than a couple times. The John Madden scenes are classics.
John Madden's just the best.
Yeah, John Madden's great. How can you not like Rick Moranis and Al Bundy? Al Bundy, that's at his peak too, right?
4 touchdowns in the All-City game.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but there's some random facts about this movie that I kind of wanted to point out. So this movie was actually inspired by an early 90s McDonald's ad about a Pee Wee football team that ran during the Super Bowl. And the day it aired, Steven Spielberg actually liked it so much that he called the ad's creator, James Ferguson, and he hired him to write the script.
What's shocking to me is, are you telling me that Steven Spielberg had something to do with Little Giants? Like that just doesn't add up.
That's what it says.
I believe you. I'm just saying that's wild, man.
Yeah. So he has a lot of pull. Kind of a lot of pull in the
Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
Little Giants.
Yep. So Gary Busey and Randy Quaid were actually originally cast as the leads in this movie.
That would have been so much better. Gary Busey is losing his effing mind like it's Black Sheep all over again. And
that'd be so awesome.
awesome.
Would Randy Quaid be the nerd? I mean,
yeah, it'd have to be. You can. Gary Busey's a freaking maniac, right?
Right. So, he is. I can splatter your cortex. I can shoot you in the face. What's it going to be?
Yeah.
Your mama's house started to small fire in her panties. You ready to get the hell out of the car? Sorry, Black Sheep. One of the best movies ever.
Oh gosh, saw that in the theater with Ethan right here. It was awesome. Okay, so Ethan, what do you give this as a grade?
5.
Ooh, 5 out of 10. Wow. And Rich, what did you give this one?
I gave it a 7.
I gave it a 6. I like how we keep like going like just right up the stairs here. Yeah, I gave it a 6. The reviews on this movie. The top critics gave this a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes. I like how they like a kids movie, like
pretty standard for football movies.
Yeah, and the audience, well, they were with Rich. They gave this a 63%.
Okay.
And Siskel and Ebert, they reviewed this movie too. So let's see what they had to say.
I'm gonna guess one of them actually liked it.
I hope so. Here, let's see.
Our next movie is named Little Giants, and this is a creatively bankrupt retread of about 6 other recent movies on the same subject. Now, see if this plot sounds familiar. A team of kids who are losers and wimps practice real hard and dare to dream that they might be able to defeat another team made up of kids who are arrogant jocks. Real original. Little Giants uses the same formula as the Mighty Ducks, The Sandlot, Bad News Bears, and the same formula that was used in grown-up sports pictures like Cool Runnings and Major League. It's so hard to make a movie that I wonder why anybody would even bother with something as unnecessary as this one.
It is unnecessary, and I suppose maybe our criticism is unnecessary, but we just want to warn people off from taking their kids and wasting their money. There's so many other good films around.
2 more thumbs down for Little Giants, the comedy about Pee Wee football that is just another retread of the tired sports underdog formula.
Did Ebert just say that it made him want to commit suicide? That's crazy.
All right. Okay. So let's move on. The next movie, released on December 13th, 1996. This was written, produced, and directed by Cameron Crowe. The movie stars Tom Cruise, Cuba Gooding Jr., Renee Zellweger, and Regina King. That movie is Jerry Maguire. Ethan, tell us what Jerry Maguire is all about here.
Jerry Maguire is probably the most seen chick flick by men of all time because it is a chick flick. It's a romantic comedy, but it's packaged in a way that's going to get men to stay and be interested, as all of us watched it and we're interested because of the sports setting. Because the synopsis is we got the powerful movie stardom of Tom Cruise back. He is a agent, Jerry Maguire, working with professional athletes when his hockey player gets this really bad concussion and he sees the families affected by it. And he comes up with this kind of like memo he writes about like, we need to take care of our people and not just be looking to make money and all this stuff. And he sends it to everybody in his entire sports agency firm. And it pretty much just gets his ass fired. But he decides he's going to start his own agency based on the principles he's talking about. And he goes, who's with me? Yeah. And the only person that goes with him is Renee Zellweger's character, a single mom who clearly has a little bit of a crush on him or whatever and tries to make this thing work. And the only athlete he can really retain, because they just poach almost every athlete from him, showing you there really is no loyalty in business, is this receiver for the Cardinals, Rod Tidwell, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., which I do believe he was either nominated or won awards for his portrayal of this. And clearly this movie was a huge hit because it was a movie that was almost universally seen by everyone. Regardless of interest in sports or race or creed or whatever, the whole fact that you've got so many catchphrases that permeated like popular culture, like show me the money, you complete me, which Josh says to me in a text at least once a week. I mean, just, and the human head weighs 8 pounds because the kid, obviously the little boy that's the child of the single mom really steals the show. Like for me, that's my favorite part. What are you guys thinking?
You're right when you say that that's probably the most seen chick flick by males. I can't even think of another movie that is more seen by males. You know, and Cameron Crowe, he is a master at doing that because look at some of the movies that he's like. Look at Singles. That's not a movie that normally it's kind of like a chick flick, right? But it has so much great music and you have like rock stars in it, and like it's like set in Seattle. It's like this perfectly just timed with that scene, right? And it helped make that scene, by the way. And Cameron Crowe's amazing. Like he's like one of my favorite writer directors like out there. That I think his first movie that he kind of wrote was Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and he also did one of my favorite movies of all time, which was Almost Famous. That's a fantastic movie. But this movie is it's a good, solid movie and one of the most quotable movies of all time. Rich, how about you? What are your takes on this?
Love the movie as a whole. You guys are right. I'm gonna point out that it's one of those movies where the football feels realistic, because you basically got the Monday Night Football crew, and they film it almost exactly like a Monday Night Football game. Yeah, and so that part is just the cherry on top. You have great actors doing great acting things. And it's just overall an entertaining, well-written movie. If I had to put a grade on it, I don't know how I go any lower than a 9.
Boom. There you go.
Yeah, and Josh, your score at least has to have a 4 because there is nudity in this. There's a great scene where what's John Travolta's wife's name again in real life? The one that was Kelly something. She's gorgeous.
Sorry, Kelly Preston, or is it
Kelly Preston? Yes, and she's like it's Jerry Maguire's wife at the beginning, right? And there's a scene where she's just riding him, and I'm just like, dear God. was like, and she's smoking. It's probably a body double, or whatever, but it's just like, I was like, okay. You got
Definitely
like I said, there are things in there for everybody.
It's true.
That's
So,
true.
what
So
were you
it's at
gonna rate
least gonna get a 4 from me. What are you giving it though?
Oh, okay. Gosh, the chick flick thing. Part of me's pissed because I got duped into watching a chick flick. And then as far as a football movie, if I'm rating as a football movie, I'd probably give it like a 7. If I'm rating it just a movie entertaining wise, I'd probably more like an 8. But I mean, football is part of it, and there is some great football in it, but it's not real. I mean, it's a different movie. It's like the part that duped me into watching it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of felt the same way. I mean, like I would always say like, well, because people go like, it's the greatest football movie of all time. I'm like, well, it's kind of like a chick flick.
What?
It's kind of a chick flick.
Yeah.
I used to like argue with Velasco. He's like, I love that movie. And I'm like, it's kind of a chick flick though. He's like,
let's not mention him anymore. That just makes me angry.
It's not a chick flick. And I'm like, it's kind of a chick flick. No, but so this movie, just as some random facts on this movie, the camel. You guys recall the camel in this movie?
Yeah.
They said the camel was actually a big problem because it chased down Tom Cruise. It actually bit Cuba Gooding Jr. and it stomped a crew member. I don't know how badly it stomped a crew member, but the fact that it stomped a crew member, I'm like, wow.
Poor intern Grip.
They should have Conan Barbarian his ass and just punched him in the head like Schwarzenegger.
I think that's
give
actually
the camel
in the
what he
movie.
deserves. Yeah,
Punch
I
that
think,
camel, yeah.
and it wasn't
Camel
supposed to be. And I
punch
think they kept it because it was so good.
Oh, it's so funny. So funny. Yeah.
Peter's probably pissed still.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Also, in the movie, Reebok, they actually struck up a deal to have a product placement deal mixed into the movie with TriStar Pictures for $1.5 million.
Damn.
So what they wanted was they wanted to incorporate a commercial into the actual whole movie there. And they actually cut that commercial. So it actually didn't actually air, but you can find it on YouTube. And
We've been duped.
I'm going to play it right now. You know, not that it's anything great, but I'm going to play it.
There are things I will not do. Try to be a movie star. No. Believe my own hype. No. Rides here today. Try to sell you something I would never buy. No. Try to be a singer. Hell no. No, no, no. But there is one thing I know how to do. Survive. You know?
That was the commercial
for the money.
Yeah. So not only was Reebok upset that they cut that commercial, which was supposed to be in the movie in the first place, but they were not happy because at one point in the movie, Rod Tidwell, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., he actually says, "Fuck Reebok." I was like, wow, that's some balls to keep that in there and cut the actual commercial.
I mean, if you want realism, I'm sure that happens in real life. Come on.
That's crazy.
Well, and if the camera crew already collected the check, he doesn't really give a shite.
That's like. Can you imagine them cutting the part of Adam Sandler? He's like, Subway, it absolutely delicious, and he's eating like Subway. He's like, I love Subway. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So it was funny. I actually saw this a while back. There was an interview with Jay Moore on his podcast, and he's talking to Jerry Cantrell of Alice in Chains, and he said that director Cameron Crowe cast him as the role as the copymat worker, Jesus of Copymat, just because he wanted to see Jerry Cantrell wear Dockers and a tie. So that's why he's in that movie and how he got that role. So that's kind of.
But I love that Cameron still giving shout out to the Seattle music scene and his boys.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think I give that movie 7.5, maybe like an 8. Yeah. So the reviews on that movie, these are pretty even, pretty solid. So the critic reviews on this, 84% by the top critics.
Wow.
And a 79% from the audience. So it's pretty even.
Yeah. Oh, with the movies that are in sports, that's for sure.
Right.
Yes.
I like Jerry Maguire quite a lot, but I wish there had been less of it to like. There are at least 2.5 movies here, and I think they could have started by getting rid of all of the distracting material about the divorced wives support group. Then they could have made a nice movie about the cutthroat world of professional sports agents, or another nice movie about the love story between Maguire and the woman who believes in him. Both of those stories suffer a little, I think, in a movie that feels like it needs closer editing. But even in its flawed state, Jerry Maguire contains wonderful performances, a lot of insight, and some real feeling.
It's far from perfect, but I liked it a lot.
I liked it too, maybe a little more than you. I think that the two parts, the sports agent part and the love story, I think is this director Cameron Crowe is saying something very important, which is that for yuppies, and Cruise is the ultimate yuppie in the movies these days, that there is more to life than business success. And I think that the love story here and this performance by Renee Zellweger, who's been independent, this is a star-making performance. 2 thumbs up for the beautifully written yuppie love story, sports agent movie, Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise.
All right. So next movie on the list here, released on November 9th, 1997. This movie stars Christopher Lloyd. And that's where I'm ending it with the starring roles here. The movie is Angels in the Outfield. So
Endzone.
Endzone. This ain't baseball, brother.
This movie is Angels in the Endzone.
That's a different podcast. We did that one.
Angels in the Outfield is probably where it should have stayed. Let's be honest.
That's true. That's true. So this movie is actually a sequel. It's actually a sequel to the 1994 film Angels in the Outfield. And Al the Angel returns, but this time he visits a small town and manages to halt the losing tradition of the high school football team, changing the lives of 2 young brothers who have recently lost their father. Just a touching story about just an awesome story about, angels in the end zone instead of angels in the outfield. Ethan, what did you think? You love this movie or what? I mean, I can't see you not liking this movie.
I didn't even know this thing freaking existed. When you had this on the list, I'm like, they made that movie? What the F? So no, I've not seen it. I've got no thoughts on it. I give it no score.
Rich is like, that actually hurts my feelings because I was at the prime age for this movie. It's actually one of my top favorite movies of all time. Rich, actually, what does the real Rich think about this movie?
Ditto.
Oh, wow. For real? You really loved Angels in the End Zone?
No, ditto
to me.
To what Ethan said.
Oh, okay.
Yeah!
So
Disney, take this steaming pile of shit.
So this movie is actually the first Angels film to not focus on baseball, instead focuses on football. I don't even know why that has to be said. But
wow.
This movie
Takes you a moron.
This movie has zero reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. And but the audience gave it a 28%. That's
God.
I think that's better than I thought it would get.
I mean, that.
Listen, Johnny Be Good just need to go into a dumpster fire together.
That 2 out of every 9 kids that watched Angels in the Outfield checked it out. So
without watching this movie, what do you guys give it as a grade?
0.
A 0.
I agree with the critics. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give it.
Josh, is there nudity? You getting it a 4?
That's true. There's no nudity, so it doesn't even get a 4.
I mean,
I'll give it half a point.
Chris Lloyd's entertaining.
You guys are just non-believers. You guys have to know there's angels in the end zone, angels in the outfield. You guys are just haters. So
my favorite of those movies, those Angels in the Anal Beads.
Oh, is that really a porno that you and Rob used to watch back in the day?
No. I just love watching Rich laugh, so I say things just to get him giggling.
All right, so this movie, I'm going to give this movie. I can't give this movie a score because I didn't watch it either. But if I did see this movie, I imagine myself giving it a 2.5. But that's just anyway. So all right, moving on. So
good Lord.
You know what? It's too bad you didn't have your brother on. It might have been a movie you watched high or something. So.
There you go. Could have been fun.
All right. So the next movie on our list, released on November 6th, 1998. This movie stars Adam Sandler, Kathy Bates, Henry Winkler, Jerry Reed, and a bunch of other guys. The movie is The Waterboy. Ethan, what is The Waterboy about?
Well, you've got this overprotective Cajun mother who pretty much had the father runs away at some point, and they've got this baby boy who's a little special named Bobby Boucher. And Bobby has apparently been the water boy successfully for this college football team that's a legendary. And has basically been treated like crap by all the players and everyone until one day the assistant coach of this guy, who's like apparently used to be like a football genius or something, until this one mean coach that's running it like steals his playbook and like steals his mojo, kind of Austin Powers-esque. You steal the mojo, and then everything's going bad, and he's at this crappy little mud dog school until one day somebody messes with him, and the Waterboy, because he's been ran out of the other school and he's coming here, he goes and lights up somebody, and with the kind of violence of 10,000 men, and as a result gets recruited into playing football and trying to get the overprotective mother and stuff like that all on board, and a whole drama ensues as they try to take this band of misfits led by a kid that is special needs. I think that's not mean to say. Can light people up. And I don't know what the hell's going on.
Homeschooled.
There you go. So Bobby tries to basically take out all the rage of being teased and beat up and picked on his entire life, and uses it to channel it into absolute violence on the football field. In typical Adam Sandler, just stupidity but fun. This movie just has a great time, and this is quite enjoyable.
I mean, for foosball movies, it's one of the best.
The foosball, the devil
out there. Yeah, girls are the devil. Surprisingly, for a comedy, very quotable for some reason in my realm. It's an entertaining movie. It's funny, and it's basically about the extreme of Adam Sandler movies that I can deal with. Like Little Nicky is too far.
Yeah,
but
I think it was for most of people.
But Waterboy is actually entertaining for whatever reason for me. You got the guy with the Cajun accent, the coach that no one understands.
Yep.
And it's fun for what it is. It works. Adam Sandler's funny, and Kathy Bates as a ridiculous, overprotective, stupid mom. It worked. So I enjoyed it as a funny, stupid movie.
What do you guys give this movie as a grade before I give you my review?
Go ahead, Ethan.
I'll give it like 5.
5? Okay.
I'll give it
Maybe
5. I'll give it 5.5.
Oh, I like it.
5.5. Okay, so this is a movie I remember very well because I saw this movie with Ethan. Remember, he was sitting to my left, and I don't think that Ethan probably remembers this part. I remember towards the end of the movie, I remember saying, "This is the last Adam Sandler movie I'm seeing in the theater."
I think I do remember that. I remember you like, yes.
I was like, I can't. I couldn't believe.
Dumber. Now I've watched this.
Oh my god. Okay, so you know how in those other movies like Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison, they're kind of like drunk and silly and just out of control. And he's like anger issues in Happy Gilmore. In Billy Madison, he's just this spoiled, drunk, rich kid.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, he's like a special needs kid, and everybody even around him is acting so dumb. He even topped the stupidity of this movie with Little Nicky and the worst movie that I ever saw of him. I can't believe I even saw it, but Mr. Deeds is the worst movie ever made by him. Anyways, it's that kind of ridiculousness that I was like, I'm so fucking lost. They completely lost me. I mean, he's a water boy. I don't know. He's just like, wow. But remember, at that point in time, he was so big. He was so big that this movie, I don't know if you guys know this. This movie is actually the first movie of his to reach $100 million at the box office.
Wow.
$100 million. And go ahead, Rich.
What I was going to say, the one thing that I didn't bring up, it does have a classic, great cameo from Lawrence Taylor.
Kids don't do crack.
Yep. That brings me to my next point. Kids don't do crack.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Dan Patrick cameo in it, pretty good too.
Oh God. Don't do crack. And yeah, come from him. Yeah. Okay. This movie, check this out. This film is also the highest grossing sports comedy of all time.
Yikes!
Wow.
That's not good.
Wow.
With over $161 million at the box with box office sales.
And
and
shows you how retarded we are.
check this out. The next spot on the list is The Longest Yard in 2005, the remake of The Longest Yard.
Wow.
Starring Adam Sandler. And that brought in over $158 million. So look, I'm definitely in the minority. So, but again, I saw that movie in the theater, so I helped out. So now I think the best thing to come from this movie is kind of what Rich said. Some of the quotes are, they stand the test of time, right? Like The Offspring. I love that song by The Offspring. You can do it. You know, like, you can do it. So yeah, at least I got that. I think this is the worst movie on the entire list. I'm going to put this right below Angels in the Endzone.
Wow.
Angels in the Endzone. I'm going to say this is a 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
This is a 2 out of 10.
And Josh hasn't even seen that one.
Wow, that's saying something.
Yeah, right. No, so this got a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes with the critics, a 71% with the audience. 71. So I'm completely in the minority. Most people love this movie. I'm just not a fan, which is fine. It's fine.
Just fans of Adam Sandler. That's
right.
it.
Yeah. So now, what do you guys think are Siskel and Ebert going to like this movie?
Are you serious? They reviewed this? Okay, let's hear this.
All right, let's see it.
Comedies that did not make us laugh. And my pick here would have to be The Waterboy, which was an enormous hit for Adam Sandler. It grossed millions of dollars from millions of people who must have liked it a lot, but I didn't. I didn't think the movie was funny, and I didn't much like Adam Sandler's character, but what I really hated was his speaking voice. It's supposed to be a Louisiana accent. Louisiana should sue.
Nice sue.
Thank you. He was my daddy. Mama don't know I'm here, but I took these out of the icebox. Louisiana fog cakes.
The fact that a lot of teenagers apparently like the movie is not a good sign. My advice to intelligent teenagers who are in love is take your dates to The Waterboy, and if they like it, break up with them.
You know what? I'm curious to go back and see if they're really enjoying it. Are they really laughing at this picture? I don't know, because, boy, I didn't.
You know how they have revivals of classic movies? I'd like to bring this movie back in 5 years, bring the same people back, put them in the theaters, and see how they like it.
Well, if they haven't been in a car accident, I don't think they'll like it anymore.
Let's go. Next on the list here, we have released on August 14th, 1998. I'd say starring, but I don't think there's someone with an actual star in this cast.
What's the name of the dog?
So this one is Air Bud Golden Receiver. So, Ethan, do you have any thoughts on that?
How is this even a movie? Like, how many Air Buds are there prior to this?
I
don't know.
I think this might have been the second or the third. So.
The fact that Disney was shoveling this horse shit at us and trying to given this is probably straight to video. This didn't even come out in the theater. Don't tell me it did, because that's BS.
So, Ethan, I actually there's a fact listed on here.
Okay.
This is the last Air Bud movie to be released in the theaters. So, like,
wow.
Wait, this is for the theatrical releases?
I'm sure this was a sweet kid. I mean, because who doesn't love a dog that can catch a football or whatever? I'm just saying, I didn't watch it, and I wouldn't waste 1 second of my life watching it in the future. I give it no points, and may God have mercy on the souls of the people who made it.
Rich is like, that's just because you're older than me. I quite enjoyed it, actually.
I did not say that.
All right. So did anybody actually see this movie?
Did you?
No.
No. So why'd you put this horse shit on the list?
Listen. This came out in 1998. I may have seen it, like at Ryan's place when I was pre-funking.
At a yard sale, maybe? It was
him and James were like watching Air Bud Golden Receiver, and I'm like,
James was watching that. Probably Velocity came over too, and
all right,
collection of jack wagons.
Just for shits and giggles, this got a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, 38%.
21.
Wow.
Almost 40% of the audience that love this movie. So
it's better than Johnny Be Good.
They just like dogs.
Yeah, that's the only reason. Dogs are cool. I will give
For
it
the dog, I give it a 3 out of 10.
Okay.
Can't be any worse than the pilot.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So, released on January 15th, 1999, this movie stars James Van Der Beek, John Voight, Paul Walker, the late Paul Walker, Amy Smart, and Scott Conn, as well as Ali Larter and Ron Lester as Billy Bob. The movie is Varsity Blues. So, Ethan, why don't you tell us a little bit about Varsity Blues?
Well, it's Texas football, right? And if we all know, in Texas, football is religion. And so it's trying to give you a little chance of that, understanding that Paul Walker is the starting quarterback. I think his character was named Lance or something. Yep. And he gets a season-ending injury. And so the Coyotes coach, this legendary Bud Kilmer, played by John Voight, is forced to promote the backup, Jonathan Moxon, was played by James Van Der Beek, who's really kind of a nerd. He's really concerned about more like getting into college and getting all this prep school stuff. And football's something that he kind of has to do because it's Texas. And his dad and the whole town and everybody's talking about it like it's a small little Texas town. And so with that, he's really not interested in that. But man, Bud Kilmer does not want to lose his division title streak and his reputation. And so this war of wills, similar to when we went back to like All the Right Moves, there's this like, I told you, it was kind of this repeated theme of they kind of repurposed the script, if you will. And so this war of wills happens between the coaches, and it turns out this coach could care less about any of his players. It's really only worried about his reputation and his ego. He mistreats players. He's using cortisone shots to get certain. There's a kid with concussions. I mean, once again, it's like all the worst crap that could happen in football at a high school level is now being compiled into this Varsity Blues movie. And then Jonathan Moxon is the kid who's going to stand up to the coach and try to bring down this jackass and let the world see him for what he is. And so that's the plot. But obviously the most important point is the whipped cream bikini. So
absolutely. That's one of the best scenes in cinema history. I love that scene. There was a girl that dressed up when I first moved to Phoenix. They had one of these big giant Halloween parties, block parties. And this girl got up there with that costume. I was like, that's fantastic.
That sounds inspiring.
That's my winner right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Rich, what do you think about this? I have a lot to say about this movie, but Rich, what do you have to say about this movie first?
I mean, it does give you kind of the same theme as All the Right Moves, and kind of mixing it with Friday Night Lights, basically.
Yeah.
And some of the characters, I mean, it's over the top like everything else.
Oh, yeah.
But it does give you kind of insight into the thinking of Texas football, as Ethan was saying. And the football itself wasn't horrible.
Not bad,
that
actually.
they showed, from what I remember. But the movie itself, it didn't really connect with me, but I enjoyed it. So,
gotcha. Yeah, this movie is a massive guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah.
There are so many
I feel
quotes,
that too, Josh.
There are so many quotes in this movie that are just hilarious. And then, I mean, the soundtrack. Think about
great soundtrack. Was this the first MTV movie too, Josh? Like I think there was that marriage, like MTV, films or whatever. I think it might have been the first.
Well, I think that didn't they do that? What was that one? The cockroach Joe's apartment or something like that.
Oh yeah, you might be right.
Yeah. I wouldn't say that this movie is a good movie, but it's definitely a movie that, has hot chicks in it. It's over the top as far as the villain coach, the players are likable. Not exactly a great plot, but kind of like in the same vein as like a American Pie, something like that, and lots of like, just, I keep saying this, but lots of quotes. I used to just quote the movie all the time.
Doesn't it remind you of like an 80s teen movie though, just made in 1999? Like it's got that kind of, it's got cheese to it, right? And that over the top, like you said, the pace is of a kind where you can't get bored or get bogged down or kind of, it doesn't have slow parts, man. It kept you moving.
Yeah. So what do you guys give this as a grade for a movie?
I'm going to give it a 6.
6, okay.
It's kind of a guilty pleasure, like you said, Josh, especially because as I said, like I'm just going to Central, right? Just starting to walk on the team, and it was big with a lot of the guys there, and we're talking about all the time. So I just remember watching with a lot of the younger guys, kind of like bonding. Because remember, I was an old man playing college football, and I needed every chance to kind of ingratiate myself with the youngins. And just coming out of coaching at the old high school at Auburn too, so that was just kind of coming out. So it's like a 7.5 probably for me, just because, like I said, it's guilty pleasure.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna give it an 8. Again, it's not one of the greatest movies, but for football movies, especially
pretty good.
Yeah, and by the way, some of the other movies were like, we were out of school. I didn't watch that shit, but we were out of school, and we were like, what?
But this isn't a kids movie. That was a movie that had gravity.
Yeah.
People were talking about it.
This movie actually got a 43%, 43% on Rotten Tomatoes from the top critics, which is expected, and a 76% with the audience. So we're getting near 80% with the audience. So that's
pretty good.
It's all right. All right. The last movie that we have on our list is a movie that was released on December 22nd, 1999.
Barely makes Under the Wire, man.
Just made it. So this is directed by Oliver Stone, back when Oliver Stone was Oliver Stone. And the film features, I can't even name all the people in this movie. This is the craziest amount of people in here. But the main guys are Al Pacino, Cameron Diaz, Dennis Quaid, Jamie Foxx, James Woods. It literally goes on for like 20 different people that are in this movie that you would recognize. So
cameos alone, there's so many NFL cameos. It's insane.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You even have Bill Bellamy was in this movie as one of the receivers. And I actually get to do an interview with Bill Bellamy with Kevin before this movie came out.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you know what? Let me play a little clip of that.
Well, that is going to be an incredible experience for me. We start camp in 2 weeks, and we're going to be, running through all these NFL plays and stuff like that. So we're going to, it's going to be kind of intense. And I'm like, wow, man, I'm going to be in scenes with Scarface over there. Tony Montana. You know what I'm talking about, baby?
So can you reveal what you're going to be doing in the movie? Or?
Yeah, I'm playing a wide receiver. And I'm like the star wide receiver for the team. I got some, personal problems, but I'm trying to, maintain my life. And, whenever there's a big touchdown or a needed catch, I'm your man.
All right. So I thought that was kind of cool. But anyway, Ethan, what is this movie? What is the plot of this movie?
So as I recall, and it's been a few years since I've watched this, man, like I think this is a movie that I was so excited for when it was like coming out, like seeing the previews, like, oh man, Oliver Stone making a football movie. It's going to be awesome. And then I watched it and I was like, huh? Like, I don't want to tell anybody, but for me, you got Al Pacino, who plays this like coach, I think that used to be super successful, but they're struggling. There's a new young owner. That's Cameron Diaz. You've got this old aging quarterback. It just felt like the story of the Miami Dolphins. And I think this really hit home and probably hurt Josh's feelings when an aging Dan Marino, just joking. But with that, you've got the story of just like how they try to get things going. But at the same time, Al Pacino's got, not only is his team falling apart a little bit with all these aging stars, his marriage is falling apart. Life seems pretty miserable.
Train wreck.
And so, this young president co-owner of the Sharks, there's all this stuff, but I was just kind of like, am I supposed to care about any of this? Like, they didn't do a great job really developing any characters that you care about. Like,
there's almost too much shit going on. You're like,
it was.
Yeah. Which way am I supposed to follow this thing here? Right.
And other than love looking at Cameron Diaz, and she's a great actress, and the fact that like there's too many characters to care about, and none of them were really developed super well, I feel like.
So, and that's kind of the counterpoint of like the program. Like what I felt about the program, that they developed all the different characters in the movie. You guys are right. In this movie, it's just kind of, there's so many characters that they introduce you to, and then they don't really take it anywhere.
Well, it's like, they're just excited to say, look, we worked Lawrence Taylor into this. Look, we worked,
right.
But they're like, there's no real character development. They're just like, but that felt like everything. It just felt very plastic, very, I don't know, no substance to it. No nutritional value.
When they make, when they make those movies where it's just all about like the famous people in the movie.
Yeah.
Didn't they make a movie a while back called like Valentine's Day, where it's literally, it's like, I didn't see it, but I just saw that there was like 100 like famous people in that. And I was like, there's no way that movie could be good, right? Like it's just like a million different people or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, here's what I will say. This movie has one of the greatest inspirational speeches of all time. That
Every inch.
Yeah. That right there makes the movie, it definitely bumps it up for me. And again, some of the...
Is there nudity in it, Josh?
Oh, I don't know. Is there?
There's got to be. It's Oliver Stone.
Wait, what's her name is in that movie? Elizabeth from Saved by the Bell?
Oh,
Elizabeth Berkley?
Oh, yeah. That was Showgirl.
She was in that movie as, I think she was a hooker or something. Was she I think she was a hooker trying to pick up Al Pacino at the bar.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I like how after Saved by the Bell, she's just like, I'm going to play a stripper, a hooker. Anybody else have any other roles for me? Like,
hey, I'll blow you for a role. Now she's back in that like Saved by the Bell reboot, so she
did take Speed in Saved by the Bell. So
right.
That's right. That was a classic episode.
What was she saying in that? She's like, I'm so scared. Or something like that. I can't remember.
So overdramatic, melodramatic. I love that damn show.
Yeah, it's so great. Okay, so I did see that the F word in this movie was used 117 times in the movie.
Wow.
I think I
heard. Yeah, I think I heard that when Lee's equipment didn't work. All 117 F words.
Wait, whoa. We talk about behind the scenes here? Come on.
Right. Yeah, so this movie actually received a 52% on Rotten Tomatoes with the top critics and a 73 with the audience.
Those numbers are both shocking to me a little bit.
Yeah, what do you guys give this as a movie or as a score out of a top 10?
I mean, it does have some... it is entertaining to an extent. I'd give it a 6 myself.
I think 6 is a good number. I think that was right where I was hovering around.
Yeah, I gave it a 7 because of that speech. I think it's. I remember Lee always used to be playing that speech. I'm like, how many times are you going to play this speech, Lee? It's like when Lee likes a song, he just keep playing it over and over. And I go, except the speech is like, I guess it's about the same time as the song. And it has the dramatic music in the background. Yeah. So that concludes the movie section. So what we're going to do now, gentlemen, is we're going to select our top 3 selections for the greatest football movies of the 80s and 90s. But first, we are going to do a runner-up for the 4th spot position. So, Ethan, what is your runner-up?
You guys are probably going to laugh at me, but it's the best of times. I've just got to watch Robin Williams do a double spin move off the line of scrimmage, getting past Dr. Death, getting the bomb. Spoiler alert, he catches it. Almost doesn't, but he catches it this time. And just like I said, my love of Robin Williams, Kurt Russell, and that movie just made me smile, laugh. I had good memories with my dad, so that's my honorable mention for me.
Awesome. I like it. All right, Rich, how about you, buddy?
I kind of wish we could go like top 5 with a runner-up, but besides all that, I'll follow the rules here. So,
do you want to do a tie for your runner-up, buddy? You want to do a?
No, I'm not gonna cheat. I'll make the cut.
Man of principle. I like it, Rich.
I'll be the coach and I'll make the cut. So we're gonna go with the runner-up actually being Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire. All right. Okay.
What about you, Joshua? What's your runner-up?
So my runner-up is actually going to be
Lucas.
It's close, man. It's just close, but it was a tough call. It's like Rich Falls. He's like, I'm cutting. It hurts my soul, but I'm gonna cut Lucas. No, my runner-up is going to be School Ties as my runner-up.
Cool,
nice, man. Mine was by 5.
Now we're into our top 3, gentlemen. So we're just gonna keep going in the same order. So, Ethan, what do you have sitting at your number 3 selection for the top football movies of the 80s and 90s?
This is going to be kind of shocking, but for me, number 3 is The Program.
Program. There you go.
Yeah, I think it would have probably been higher if Bob Jones hadn't programmed my head that this was because like I said, there's so many great scenes that the football was pretty fun. The character development's a great point that Rich makes, so I got The Program at 3.
There you go. Rich, how about you, buddy?
after thinking about it, and I probably shuffled these around a few different times, even just as we were talking about it.
Yeah.
So
no, that's cool.
I'm going number 3, Wildcats.
Oh, number 3, Wildcats. Nice. I like it. Well, Rich, me and you, we's the same. Because I have the same movie sitting at my number 3 with Wildcats. So
nice.
There you go. Yeah. So now we're down to the top 2. We are down to the top 2. So Ethan, which movie had you make your number 2 selection?
They're going to laugh at me, but once again, it's nostalgia. It's things I love. It's the time it came out. Number 2 is Necessary Roughness. It's stupid. It's terribly edited, but it's just, there's so many quotable things from that. That movie makes me laugh.
Nice.
So Necessary Roughness is my number 2. Plus, I'm a sucker for comedies, man. I like things that make me laugh.
Cool. There you go. Hey, it's hard to hate what you love deep down inside, right? It's hard to hate what you love. Okay. Rich, what is your number 2 movie?
I almost wanted to put it at 1, but couldn't quite do it. So we're going The Program.
The Program. Boom. Nice. Okay. So my number 2 movie is a movie that not everyone loves on this podcast.
Air Bud Golden Receiver.
It's close. It was close. It had to be cut. I think that was number 5. No. So the movie is Rudy. You got to go with Rudy. How do you not like Rudy unless you're named Ethan McDonald? So there you go. It is what it is. Can you feel bad? Can you imagine Ethan walking away from the movie? He's like, that fucking sucked. Man,
I didn't think it sucked.
I want my money back. I want my money back. No. All right. So that was my number 2 movie. So now we're down to, this is it. We're down to the selections for the greatest football movie from the 80s and 90s. Ethan, what do you have for your top pick?
It's The Sportive Kings. Better than diamond rings. Football.
Oh, nice.
Wildcat. Goldie Hawn. Like I said, funny. Great memories. Love it. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I know. And sorry, Rudy. You can suck it.
He does. He leans to 80s cheese. So
80s cheese, man. That's just the time I grew up. Yeah.
I am not ripping on that selection one bit. I love it. I love that you have that as your number 1. It's fantastic. Right? That's great. So, Rich, what do you have sitting at your number 1, buddy?
Well,
I don't think this is a shocker. I don't think this is a shocker.
Yeah, no.
The last Boy Scout.
You were. That was number 5.
Damn.
But we're going Rudy. We're going Rudy, number 1.
Rudy it is.
Notre Dame. Classic story.
Ethan and I lift you up. Or we attacked you. We're like, oh shit. Okay.
Hey, why'd you make me so heavy?
All right. Okay. So my number 1 movie for the greatest films of the 80s and 90s, football edition. After thinking about this, this movie, every time I see it, I'm highly entertained. And
Little Giants.
No. Well, I know you thought it was going to be Air Bud, but what was the other movie that was right around Air Bud? The movie that
Angels in the
Endzone.
Angels in the
kind of the same engine.
That's my pick, even though I've never seen it. No. So my number 1 movie
loves Christopher Lloyd.
It's got to be
the Program. The Varsity Blues.
Varsity Blues. That is my top film from the 80s and 90s. What do you guys think? Yes.
Wow.
That's the only reason it wins it all. And let's be honest, with Mr. James Caan dying, his son was pretty legit in that too.
Yeah, he was
pretty awesome.
Ethan, how did we forget the scene where they go to the strip club?
The teacher.
And they're playing Hot
Billy Bob.
Yeah.
Come on. Yes. And the teacher sees them and she's like, well, fuck it. Here you guys go. You show. I'm going to give you a show. And I'm like, damn. See, how can you not like that, right? Automatically 4, bumped it up, did the math, boom, boom, boom. There you go.
There you go.
All right.
I want more movies of Sinbad in them just so that we have to make Rich use his role.
Yep. It's a 6.
There you go. Yep. And all right. So everybody watching this, listen, Our picks are completely ridiculous. We know that. What are your favorite movies from the 80s and 90s that are football movies, or just football movies in general? You can pick anything. So,
Dallas 40.
Yes, we might have to actually
Remember the Titans?
A movie of the 2000s and the 2010s for the next episode. But let us know what you guys think and what your movies are that you love, and what are your favorite scenes from the movies that we talked about. So, hey guys, anything else you guys want to add?
Go Hawks.
Go Bears.
Go Hawks! Go Hawks! There you go. Oh yeah. Oh, and the Bears, so absolutely fantastic. All right.
Go Siwoo.
For Ethan McDonald and Rich Falls, my name's Josh. And as always, thank you for being a friend.